This was a bad idea. So, recently, I accepted a dare from one of my friends telling me to play every mainline Sonic game. Here's the story. Hey guys, Nathan here from Nathan88K, and as you heard, I'm going to be playing every single Sonic game. Well, not every single one, every mainline Sonic game. So this starts at Sonic 1, all the way entering 3D with Sonic Adventure, reaching the next-gen consoles, well, at the time, next-gen consoles with Sonic 06, going back to the classics with Mania, and all the way up to Frontiers. I am not excited about this at all. There's a couple games I want to play. Classics, the adventure games, Unleashed. Then I don't want to play Sonic Heroes and Sonic 06. So, I hope you guys enjoy joining me on this journey. But first, before we get into the video, I gotta go over some ground rules. For the classic Sonic games, I only have to complete them. I do not need to get the Chaos Emeralds and or Time Stones and or Super Emeralds. For Sonic and the Black Knight, I do not have to do every mission. Same in Sonic Unleashed, because I think that has extra missions. I just have to complete the story. Same with Sonic Mania, just the story. I don't need to go for the Chaos Emerald. I basically just have to finish the story in every game. There are a couple games that should be in this list that aren't, because I've not been able to acquire them. And or, if I play 3 bad games in a row, I might just implode into a violent rage, and I don't want to do that. So first of all, no Sonic 3D Blast, I've not been able to acquire it. And no Sonic in the Secret Rings. And I think that's about it. So, hope you guys enjoy. Final list of all the games. Sonic 1, Sonic CD, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 Knuckles, Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Sonic 06, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World, Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and Sonic Frontiers. Well, let's just begin then.
Sonic 1. The game that started it all back in 1991, and it's alright. It's a couple good levels with the rest being mediocre. Sonic 1 has a great start in the form of Green Hill Zone. Everyone's favorite level, Green Hill Zone, the least overused level in Sonic history, and it's a great start. It's fun. You could build up a bunch of speed. It's a great introduction to the gameplay of Sonic. And it's followed up by Marble Zone. But before we move on to Marble Zone, I have to compliment Sonic 1. It manages to start off with a bang and then go downhill. It's like Sonic 1 is just the entire series in one game. Jokes aside, Sonic 1 is fun. It was my third time playing it for this video, and my opinion hasn't really changed on the game. Marble Zone is still a level that I just have no thoughts about. I think it's just purely mediocre. I guess I can have some fun with it sometimes, but that's about it. Green Hill, still a wonderful level in this game. Spring Yard Zone, not that bad. It's probably the third best level in the game. And it's definitely done better, the whole Spring Casino-esque level with Casino Night and Carnival Night. But for Sonic 1, I guess it's okay. It's not bad like Marvel Zone or Labyrinth Zone, but it's pretty enjoyable. It Sonic 1 is okay if you get the game done quickly, or if you only play Green Hill and the next good zone, which is not Labyrinth Zone. Labyrinth Zone sucks. I'm telling you, every time I play this zone, I never have a good time. It just annoys me. That's it. Starlight Zone. I love Starlight Zone. It's a great zone. I love the feel. A great music. A whole lot of fun. And it's basically what should have followed Green Hill, not Marble Zone. Its aesthetic is wonderful. It brings a lot of new stuff to the levels while keeping some stuff from the other levels. And it's just, you can't hate Starlight Zone since there's nothing to hate it. It only shows up in the game and it's fun. Final Zone is a bit weird. I like it since it's a fun boss fight, but it follows Labyrinth Zone 4 basically, where Scrap Brain basically becomes Labyrinth Zone, its third act. And here's another thing: Sonic 1's 3 acts. It is not enjoyable in the slightest. It just lasts too long. It worked with Green Hill because Green Hill was a great level, but it just doesn't work with the rest of the game. And I hope there is a lot more to come, which there is. A lot of better games, a lot of Sonic 06, a lot of Sonic Forces, but it this game was okay to come revisit, and really, that's all I've got to say for Sonic 1. Didn't take me that long to beat it, and it didn't leave that much of an impact on its third playthrough. Like, it's oh, it was fun. I guess that's what I could say. It was fun. But what comes next? What is the dark horse of this? Sonic CD, a game that surprised me, honestly. Sonic CD was the only classic Sonic game I had little experience with. I had never played the original. I only played the Gems Collection version on the PS2 and the Christian Whitehead mobile version. So, getting to play a proper version was nice, and it was surprising. I liked the levels. I didn't like how the third act was always just a boss fight. I feel like it could have just been added on at the end of the second act, but it's not that huge of an issue. This game has a lot better zones than Sonic 1, minus, of course, Green Hill and Starlight Zone. Yeah, I would argue some of these zones are even better than Starlight Zone. And that's because they're not slow, they are actually fast. They fit Sonic the Hedgehog, the fastest character, the blue blur, not platforming, waiting for chains to go down, pushing blocks, waiting for levers. It's it's fun. It's a game that you can just sit down and play for 2 to 3 hours or less if you're a skilled player, and just have a good time. You can go to the past and the future, which uh I only went to the Stardust Speedway past and got a good future in Stardust Speedway. Because the future and the past is not something I was wanting to do in just this playthrough, since I had so many Sonic games to go through and would have just liked to get through the classics quickly. But it's a fun feature. It's a good thing that it's caused by building up speed. That's what I think is great about it, as it kind of repays the lack of speed you have in Sonic 1. And it it does have its fair share of levels that could be annoying, like Wacky Workbench. It's just a lot of stuff thrown in your way, and you keep on getting bounced up and down, and it's probably my least favorite stage in the game, but it's not Marble Zone or Labyrinth Zone bad. It's it's enjoyable, but it's tedious. And there's also Quartz Quadrant, which I felt was just a bit meh compared to anything else. I just never felt that I was able to make enough speed in it, and it its boss fight is a bit annoying if you don't know what you're doing, and it's it's okay. Sonic CD is a step in the right direction, but it is not the best it can be. Perfect way, if Sonic CD was to be made, to make it the perfect version it can be, make the levels more coherent, lower it to 2 acts, and I think that's just it perfect. Metallic Madness, Stardust Speedway, Palm Tree Panic, great zones. Sonic Boom is a banger. It's got great music in both. I think it's only just Japanese that has good music. It's got the funny piracy message, and honestly, the game it's alright. I never used the peel out. The spin dash was my more preferred option, but that's probably because I love the game we're on to now. Sonic 2. The game, which is mine and many others' favorite classic Sonic game. It's the perfect sequel to the ideas of the first Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's executed wonderfully. Sonic 2 builds on Green Hill Zone and Starlight Zone from Sonic 1. It's all about speed, it's all about momentum in its linear level designs. And I think that's just what makes it perfect. Uh, I've played this game many times, and this time I enjoyed it as much as any other. It was great playing this game straight after Sonic 1 and Sonic CD, and it's just, I think, the perfect classic Sonic game because it's done in a way where speed is the main aspect of the game, but it has a lot of other stuff in it as well, which I think is what makes it great. So, with Sonic 2, You basically follow a two-act structure where the boss is the end of the second act, which is what should have happened with Sonic CD, which is great. It's already improving on top of the first two games, and it's done in a wonderful way. Emerald Hill, wonderful starting zone. You go straight in with either Sonic or Tails, depending on how you want to play, and you can just zoom through the level. It's just so much fun playing the game, and it's because the level design is so linear. It doesn't have the multiple pathways of the later Sonic games, and I think that's probably what makes it so enjoyable. And to top it off, its story, well, it isn't like really good since it's only just a couple parts of story, but it's it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's all right. It's it's not Sonic Free's story, but you can see, especially in Sonic Origins, in the new cutscenes, you can see how Sonic meets Tails, and I think the ending cutscene is great, and I love how getting the Chaos Emeralds doesn't really change the ending. It only not getting the emeralds, you get saved by Tails. Getting the emeralds, you just fly down to Tails. It's not a huge difference, which is what I like, since the Chaos Emeralds are a bit hard to get in the original version. In Sonic Origins, it's a bit easier. I haven't went for them yet. I I wasn't bothered doing it during the run, even though I think in Sonic Free I got the emeralds. I'm not quite sure why I did that, but Sonic 2, even though it has like chemical plant that new people fear, you soon realize it's just super easy. You burn through the games in just like under an hour, and it's got a great selection of zones: Hilltop, Emerald Hill, Metropolis. Free Act is alright, but it's the perfect zone for game mastery. There's also Aquatic Ruin, which is a perfect way of showing how the game's linear. Chemical Plant is a good level for getting used to the underwater bit, and it's one of the more platform levels, which is okay to have like one or two platform levels instead of just having that be the bulk, like Sonic 1. And the boss fight is pretty good. You go in, no rings, fight Metal Sonic's older brother, basically in the form of the Silver Sonic, and then you beat him, and you have to fight the Death Egg robot, which, in my opinion, is an okay boss fight. It's hard to learn since it's got a weird hitbox, so I have nothing but praise for this game. It is so much fun. It's the perfect classic Sonic game. It's challenging, and you really know, because of Metropolis, like, you really know when you have mastered the game's mechanics, and I think it is one of the best executed Sonic games. Though particularly, I do not enjoy when a game is completely linear. But in the case of Sonic 2, I think it is done perfectly. I cannot imagine Sonic 2 with multiple pathways. And not to say that it doesn't have multiple pathways, but it's not like there's like an upper path, a bottom path, and a main path. It's just like one optional path in like each act, which is normally just above the main path. And Sonic 2 is, I can't reiterate this. It's just fun. That's all I have to say. Fun, great game, super enjoyable. Loved my time with it. And I think its soundtrack is the best in the classic Sonic games. Now, that may be controversial, but I think it's a whole lot of fun. There's one criticism I have, though, and that is the auto scroller before Winged Fortress. It it kind of kills the game's speed for a bit, and it it just basically slows the entire game down because I feel like Winged Fortress and the Death Egg Zone just they're slow compared to everything else, which I I think that's just not that good. I think that it should have been faster, and it shouldn't have slowed down that much, but that's just a one negative in a game that I can just find overly positive. It's so much fun. I love it so much, and it introduced the spin dash, a wonderful asset in Sonic's moveset, and it helps to speed up the gameplay and linear levels. It's just a whole lot of fun. The boss fights are fun, and it's really just the perfect sequel to Sonic 1 in name and in ideas. Sonic Free, the game that many people consider as the best classic Sonic game. I, as I've mentioned before, do not. And that doesn't mean I don't think it's a great game, because Sonic Free is a great game. Sonic Free is not linear like Sonic 2, it's more about its different paths. And I think it's executed well. It's executed quite well. It You get speed, which is what you should be hoping for in a Sonic game, while also having different paths to follow. And it has many different power ups and a couple of new Sonic abilities, which is fun. And in my opinion, it has some of the best zones in the game. But I think the bit where, in my opinion, Sonic Free struggles is the execution of its gameplay. Because the levels change, but Sonic's gameplay remains the same. Oh, other than the drop shield. But that's besides the point. What I mean is, we went from Sonic 1 having no spin dash, Sonic 2 and CD having the spin dash. Now there should be an evolution into Sonic's moveset, maybe a better spin dash. I feel like maybe do the peel out instead of the spin dash in in this game, instead of having it in Sonic CD. And that's because I think Sonic Free would have been the best Sonic game if that was the case. Since it improves on everything, it improves on the level in the form of the levels in the form of all the different pathways while also having speed. It improves in the story by being extremely narratively based. And I think that its soundtrack is pretty good, and its boss fights are quite good. It has my favorite set of special stages in the classic Sonic games. And in my opinion, I think Sonic Free had the potential to be better than Sonic 2 by a long shot, but but just because of the lack of Sonic evolutions and Sonic's gameplay evolution, for me personally, just I feel like that's what holds the game down. and of course the controversy from the modern with its lack of releases, meaning it's not had its gameplay fully developed for modern day, because its most recent port was only Sonic Origins, then it was the original release, which I feel like the game should have profited from more releases, as it doesn't have the polish, as in like future polish, instead not original polish. This game's pretty polished from release, but I don't think it just has what the perfect stuff to make it as a 2D game nowadays. Now, I realize I've been criticizing this game, but it's a really good game. A lot of fun with the game, and in my opinion, Sonic Free is pretty good. Its story is great. It follows Knuckles being misled by Eggman into thinking Sonic is the enemy, and then Eggman takes the Master Emerald, and Knuckles teams up with Sonic, which is where the story then goes into the Sonic and the more climactic side, as everything is now trying to get the Master Emerald back. We've went through all the levels trying to get here. Now we need to get it back. And I think that this goes from good to great, in my opinion. These final levels, Sky Sanctuary Zone, a wonderful level with great ideas, and I love how it's one act, as it then goes straight into the final. I like how the game is still two acts with a boss at the end, but also including a boss at the beginning. I think Angel Island is the best starting level besides Green Hill, since it evolves in the second to no, first to second act, and I think that Sonic sprite in this game is the best, and there's a lot of things in this game that are the best, but there's just, I feel like, in my opinion, Sonic should have just had some evolution in his gameplay. And I think that's the only thing that's holding me back. I like Sky Sanctuary's bosses nods to the old bosses in the other classic games, and I think that it's just a whole lot of fun Sonic Free, and I I prefer Sonic 2, but Sonic Free is pretty good. My my criticisms of it, they may seem harsh, but it's just a couple issues I have with the game. And I think if we look at Sonic Free and Knuckles, I think it's a bit too long. I think it should have dropped one or two probably one zone. And I feel like the zones should have had more narrative cohesion, cuz it only like Carnival Night and Ice Cap Zone have like a connection between why uh Sonic gets to from one place to the other. Same with Hidden Palace to Sky Sanctuary, and then Sky Sanctuary to the no, sorry, launch base to the Death Egg. No, sorry, it's the launch base into the Sonic Free final boss, and then Sky Sanctuary to the Death Egg. And I think that Sonic Free is, it's honestly a pretty good game. I had a great time with it. I'd only played it twice beforehand, once on the original version and once Sonic Origins, and I think that's really my criticisms for the game done. I love to compliment it. It's got some great boss fights, some great level design, and a great soundtrack, great story. The story is probably the best part of the game. They did it perfectly in a way where they had no cutscenes and no voice acting and anything like that. They managed to work around it and make it quite good, in my opinion. So I'm happy to say that there is a lot of ups to Sonic Free and Knuckles, and it is super close to being my favorite classic Sonic game. Now, I gotta state this: everything I've said is my opinions, and it's only from my recent playthrough of these games. Things are capable of changing. Now, what I do gotta compliment Doomsday Zone. I think Doomsday Zone is the perfect ending to the game. It is the natural evolution of the supersonic form and or hypersonic, since we in Sonic 2 supersonic was only used as a way of getting a different ending, but Sonic Free makes it so you get an additional boss fight with supersonic, and it I think the boss fight is pretty good. It is a natural progression of the supersonic boss fights, as I think most boss fights follow this of you get close to the enemy, making sure you don't lose the rings, and you damage the enemy by either, for example, launching the missiles into the enemy, like is done in this game, or hitting the enemy. And I gotta compliment it for that. That's how it far outdoes Sonic 2, and Doomsday Zone is just a really fun boss fight as it goes through two different stages. You go through the outer shell of Eggman's robot, and then you go into the actual Death Egg robot again, and it's carrying the Master Emerald. And I think that it is done great. A huge criticism I have actually for this is that hypersonic doesn't really change the gameplay, and that's about like the criticisms of the boss fight. I think hypersonic should return for we just had the Sonic Frontiers update free trailer, and instead of the quote unquote supersonic 2, we should have had a nod to hypersonic, and maybe they do plan on bringing hypersonic back, and I think that this game has a bunch of great ideas, but the next game is even better.
Now I see what I gotta do. Open your heart, it's gonna be alright. Yeah.
Sonic Adventure 1, the game that transitioned Sonic into the 3D realm and is regarded by news stations like IGN to be a rough game, but any true Sonic fan knows that this is one of the best Sonic games there is. So Sonic Adventure 1 follows 6 stories, which then eventually lead to a final story, and those stories are Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Gamma, and Big. In Sonic's story, it's the base story. You rush through the levels using momentum, and you just try to beat the levels. And it's really fun, and it's the perfect version of the momentum from the other games. And it's great that it was done really well in its first outing in 3D. And just the levels in Sonic Adventure 1, I just have so many good memories of them. They're so much fun. I would honestly recommend the game just for these levels alone. The game, it you may first you may at first be put off by the visual quality isn't that good, but it's a game from 1998, so you cannot expect it to be really good. But it's alright. It's goofy and it's got fun levels, and I think that's just great. And Sonic, although he has the best story, it's also the longest. Now, I think the shortest story is Tails' story. Tails' story, you basically do the same levels as Sonic, but slightly shortened, and you race either Sonic or in the Speed Highway one, where you race Eggman. You race them to the end for either a Chaos Emerald or for the bomb that blows up Station Square in the Eggman level. And it's a pretty fun way of reusing the levels. It uses Tails' flying well, because it's not just an exact like copy and paste of the level and then just put Tails in it. It's also slightly modified for Tails to roam and fly to different areas, and I think it's just great. This is probably my second favorite story in the game. It's fun, and it's basically just easy mode Sonic story. If I was to explain it, it's super simple, and also just in the story, yeah, Tails has a character developed quite well. Now, Knuckles here. I have a gripe narratively with him getting fooled again by Eggman, but there's not much I can do about that, and that's just something I'm gonna have to live with. So, the levels are all about finding the free Master Emerald shards in the level, and it uses a small radar on the bottom of the screen where all free shards are showed, and they light up free colors to show how close you are. Blue to indicate that you're getting close. Yellow if you're quite close, and red if you're on top of it, basically. And it's a really good radar in my opinion, because you can go after any of these shards. Just depends on which one lights up. And the shards are hidden in some nice places. They're hidden in enemies. They're hidden up in the sky. They're hidden like at the top of a place, and it's just a lot of fun. Now, the simplest story is the Amy story. Amy's story, I guess. I had fun with it. It's not my cup of tea, but it's not bad. You play with Amy, and she's basically slower Sonic, and she's got a story that only lasts an hour, and you just go through the level, and you just beat up enemies with hammer, and that's honestly just like the basics of Amy's story. She does have some touching moments with Gamma, which are seen in both his and her story. And Amy, I think her playstyle is fun, but like I don't prefer it over anyone but Big the Cat's story. It's all right. It enjoyable. That's just how my opinion's been for the times I've played this game. It's just a story that I don't care that much for, but I don't hate playing. Unlike Big the Cat, which I'll get onto that when we get there. And it's just Amy's moveset is alright. Like, she uses her hammer to basically double jump, and then you can also hit enemies with it. And I guess like that's cool, but it's just I think it's just too similar to a basically slowed down version of Sonic story. Now, here is probably the most unique story in the game, Gamma. So, as a Gamma, you walk around, you have to shoot all the enemies to progress, and there's also bombs that like have walls that you need to blow up, and you're basically trying to shut down all of Gamma's uh basically the same robots that were made at the same time as GABA. So like the E102 series, sorry. And I think it's just a whole lot of fun. It's definitely one of the more enjoyable stories, and also it has just a great narrative as well, in the form of Gamma becoming good and then sacrificing himself to beat Beta and freeing the Flicky within every one of them. So, Gamma's story is just a whole lot of fun, and honestly, it's probably the best. It's probably my second favorite story. As I think about it, it's it's probably most enjoyable. Or third best, since the seventh story is my favorite. But that's besides the point. Now, what I don't like, Big the Cat. These are the most annoying RNG based levels in the entire game. I I hate this. I hate this big cat in this game only. Big the Cat's great and everything else, but the, why? Why is this needed for the game? Why is this one of 6 stories you need to get to the final boss? It I don't get it. It's just so annoying, and I just it doesn't even have a good narrative. You For some reason the froggies needed for chaos, and that's just confusing. And honestly, when I replayed this, I had a bad time. I was just hoping to get it done to get to the perfect chaos boss fight. Chaos is the villain in the game, and he absorbs 7 chaos emeralds and Froggy, and then you fight Chaos in his perfect form with Supersonic, and it's a really fun gameplay loop. It's super enjoyable, and it is a bit challenging at first. So you do need to master dodging the projectiles at the end there to get a perfect run, and it's honestly a whole lot of fun, and it it's super enjoyable, and Open Your Heart is a great song, and this level just gives me so many fun vibes. And I know the level is a literal disaster, but it's so enjoyable. The first stage super easy, then you go into phase 2 where Chaos starts throwing more stuff at you where you have to dodge, and it's a bit harder to take out his HP. And he's super enjoyable. Just the boss fight's super enjoyable, which is great because it follows what I was saying with Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where this is just the natural evolution of the supersonic boss fight, where it's super fun and the enemies are challenging, I guess, but not really. And you just have to dodge, keep rings, and hit. And you also have to keep up speed to make sure you can hit, which is just the perfect evolution, just like Perfect Chaos. And though there is one game that ones up a bunch of parts of this game. And that game will let you know why I love Sonic the Hedgehog, why I think he has great gameplay, why it's great stories, and why the Sonic songs slap.
Live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn from the works of yesterday.
Sonic Adventure 2, the perfect sequel to Sonic Adventure 1, in name and in concept. It's just mirrored Sonic 1 and 2, basically. And I think this game does some aspects of the Sonic Adventure 1 gameplay a lot better, but then some aspects worse. Starting off, we got Sonic. Sonic's story. Well, it's not even Sonic's story. It's the Team Sonic and Team Dark, basically. And Sonic's gameplay, it's the best in the game. It's the most enjoyable. It's super similar to what it was in Sonic Adventure 1, and it's just a whole lot of fun. It has wonderful levels, such as City Escape, and many more. And it it's just it's really good for a game in the early 2000s. It uses the power-ups from Sonic Free and Knuckles, and it's just a whole lot of fun. The last time I played this game, I enjoyed it, and there's no differences here. I still enjoy the game, though I there is some issues with everything, well, multiple things being mapped to the same button, which is kind of annoying, but I guess I can live with it. And Sonic in this game, I think, is pretty good. He's written well, and I think he's got better voice acting in this game than the other adventure game. And honestly, Sonic is probably just my second favorite character in this game. He's super fun, and he already, when you get introduced to him in this game at the beginning of the City Escape cutscene, you already see the entirety of Sonic's character. And when he just busts out of the plane and grabs the door and skates down on the board in San Francisco, it's just great. And the what comes next, I do not think is as good as the SA1 version, and that is the mechs. These are basically the Gamma counterparts, and I think Gamma's done way better. And I'm cool with Eggman being a playable character, but he shouldn't. Him and Tails shouldn't be done like this. If it was just Eggman, yeah, it makes sense. But maybe Tails should have been similar to his Sonic Adventure 1 version, because the levels where you actually play as the mechs are kind of annoying in my opinion. It's quite subpar, and it's not really that enjoyable. And basically, the way to win, as you can see with the fight on screen, is you basically just aim and button mash. And that's just I guess that's the same thing you did in Gamma, but that makes sense because Gamma's a robot with a gun. Tails just it doesn't make sense in my opinion. I feel like the mechs are the weakest part of the game, but that doesn't mean that Knuckles also doesn't have criticism. Knuckles has a couple of criticisms to me. His controls are the same, his moveset's the same as SA1, but the levels are larger and the radar is worse. That's those are my big gripes with the Knuckles stages. 'Cause Knuckles and Rouge stages are the things that took me the longest when playing through this game. That's just because the levels are really like spread out. They're quite large, and you're finding free small shards in them. And also you can only find the second and third shard after you find the first shard. You find the first one, then you can find the second one, and then you can find the third one. And I feel like that's just not very good. The Sonic Adventure 1 radar is a whole lot better with the ability to find all three crystals at the same time. And though I understand that it could be something to increase the difficulty of the game, but I feel like the larger uh level it basically just makes it harder, which is a huge gripe in this game. But I think Knuckles, he's pretty cool and he's alright in this game. He doesn't get fooled by Eggman, which is good because I don't have a gripe of that narratively. But he doesn't stick out narratively either. And the same goes for Tails. Tails for just some reason can make a fake Chaos Emerald that's as powerful as the actual Chaos Emerald, which is a gripe narratively, yes. And I'm not a huge fan of that, but oh well. And don't get me wrong. There are some fun levels, as like the Radical Highway version of Tails. The levels alright, and Pumpkin Hill's fun, and like Eggman's first level's alright, but I think that's really about it. The levels aren't that memorable for me in gameplay. Like Pumpkin Hill, only a bit of it's memorable for gameplay. The rest is with the song and everything. And now this level, Bad Space, it is memorable, but not for any good reasons. This is the level that is the complete opposite of what these levels should have been. This level is ginormous, and you have to find 3 small shards on it. And I don't even want to get started on finding the shards. It's super annoying. This is definitely the level that I spent the most time on, other than the final levels, because that level is just naturally long. And it's super annoying. The Rouge gameplay doesn't even make it fun, since the camera's a bit weird, and it's just this is entirely luck based, because you don't know if the first shard is like the first bit you visit or not, because if it isn't there, and then like the second one is, then that's just really annoying, which is just another gripe of the lack of accessibility to the second and third shards. Just even without getting the first shard, which is a huge issue in my opinion. And I feel like maybe this would have been maybe could have recovered these levels if the radar was the same as Sonic Adventure 1. But like I understand they probably won't be like Sonic Adventure 1, and I guess that's fair, but The level's too wide and it's too annoying. And honestly, it's just probably my least favorite level in the game. I just dislike Mad Space, and it's Rouge also just Rouge is just copy and pasted Knuckles, which I feel like that's an issue with both the mechs and the treasure hunt levels, where it's both just copy and paste. Like it's just the characters swapped, but it's basically the same thing, both some different levels, which is really annoying because I guess like you could make the same argument for Sonic Adventure 1, but at least everyone played differently because we had Tails being a race and you could all the levels were modified to allow for him to fly. Knuckles, then was the treasure hunt and so on and so forth, but everything in this game is just so similar, which is my huge gripes with the mech and the treasure hunt. But now, the thing I like the most in this game, the shadow gameplay. Even though it's super similar to Sonic, I feel like Shadow, just because of his introduction and the way he is in this game, is he's my favorite character in this game because of all the story about him, and he's just his levels are just super enjoyable. His and Sonic levels are the best in the game. Radical Highway's great. City Escape is great. White Jungle is great, and it's just super enjoyable. And though Shadow is basically copy and paste Sonic story, but with a couple different levels, I don't mind it since it's the most enjoyable part. And for me, there's a difference. If you copy and paste something that's not enjoyable, then I'm gonna criticize it. But if you copy and paste something that is enjoyable and put it on new levels, then yeah, there's no issue for me since I'm just here to enjoy the game. And I think Shadow is done well. Maybe they could have, if they had Chaos Spear planned, they could have maybe thrown that into his moveset. And since like Sonic has the bounce bracelet and stuff like that, Shadow should have had another move which would have benefited him, in my opinion. And I think that's just probably my biggest gripe is that he's too much like Sonic. Though his and Sonic's rivalry in this game is pretty good. And overall, his levels are really enjoyable. I had a great time with it, just like I had a great time with Sonic's story. And I have no issues. It's fun. That's just all I have to say about it, really. I keep on reiterating it. It's just fun. That's all. Like that's everything that these speed sections should be. And that's why so many people find the speed sections is the best part of the game, because they are so replayable and they're difficult to master because you really need to master them to get the perfect time and to get the A rank. So they at least have that difficulty spike, which is good. And I think just the thing they did to bring Green Hill back, I guess, is all right. It's like an achievement for getting A rank and everything. And I guess to go back, my one gripe on Shadow, and that's just his lack of power ups. He gets basically his version of the Lightspeed Dash, and that's honestly all I can remember. And that's just not that cool in my opinion. He should have had something chaos, like Chaos Spear, Chaos Burst, maybe even Chaos Control related. And honestly, that's about it for Shadow's gameplay. Shadow's story is great, and it's great. Just I feel like if you want to know about it, just have to go watch a whole video on Shadow Story, since there's too much of it for me to cover here. And here, the final story. You play as every character, then you go Shadow to fight the lizard. I forgot the names. And then after you beat the lizard, you find the shrine and the Master Emerald is placed. And then Final Hazard is about to begin, and it's pretty good. The Bio Lizard, that's it. The Bio Lizard, and I think the boss fight here is pretty good. The basic Bio Lizard is a fun boss fight. It's not that challenging. It's pretty enjoyable, and I think it's just super fun. Though it is not the best boss fight in the game, since I think it is quite obvious what the best boss fight in this game is if you have played Sonic Adventure 2, and that is, of course, Final Hazard, which starts off with Sonic and Shadow going super and then taking the boss on. Now, this is one of the best animations, not quality-wise, but just nostalgia and everything like that for Sonic the Hedgehog, since it's the first time we have a second character properly going super. Since we have like Super Tails and Super Knuckles in the classic games, but this is the first time that you have someone actually going another super form in the game canon, and that's pretty fun. And this, like I have brought up with Sonic 3 and Sonic Adventure 1, this is the best version of the Super Sonic boss fight. Grabbing rings, dodging projectiles in space, and well, not it. It doesn't have to exactly be space. You just have to be flying, just flying around, grabbing rings, dodging projectiles, and hitting the enemy. That's basically the best the supersonic boss fight can be at this stage in Sonic's history. It does get improved, and that those improvements are okay, but we'll get to them when we get there. And this boss fight's great. You just go swapping between Shadow and Sonic, hitting the Bio Lizard, and it's easy. It's not challenging if you've played it before, but it's quite challenging if you're new to the game, as the controls are a bit weird, of course, because it's an older game. So you do have that kind of, I guess, like odd controls since it's an older game, but that's just something you learn to overcome with the first playthrough and maybe like the first minute in the boss fight. And unlike the SA2 boss fight, you have full control of where you go, and I think that's pretty cool because you can just fly around the boss. Though it it doesn't like change anything if you go to the other side of the boss, because you literally just have you switch to Sonic or Shadow. Well, it depends on who you're playing, and then that's how you get to the other side to actually do something. And though here there aren't actually rings you can get, you save rings by swapping. So I guess that's alright, but I would have preferred just having rings, I guess, on the way there. And now, this is great narratively because we also have Shadow's sacrifice. Though I feel like something should have happened to Shadow because he starts he dies or quote unquote dies for basically no reason as I don't get it. He didn't take a hit beforehand, which then maybe going this powerful would have killed him. Because Sonic's just going as powerful as he is. Maybe it's the rings that he takes off on his arms, which I think I'm not sure if it shows up in this version. Uh, I know it shows up in Sonic X, which I guess this Sonic X has this same thing, so it's similar. And yeah, it the only gripe I have with this, it just makes no sense that Shadow dies. Well, quote unquote dies, since as we know, Shadow does come back in Sonic Heroes. Sonic Heroes, the quintessential Sonic adventure free, and this game surprised me. It honestly did. I went into this with only like 2 hours of playtime on Heroes, and I literally only got to the 5th level of Sonic Story. Well, it probably didn't help that I played on PlayStation 2, and I've only ever played games on Xbox, meaning I had to get used to the PlayStation controller. But the game, I was scared for it in this challenge. I was like, all right, all the way up to Sonic Adventure 2, I'll have a good time. Then I get here, and that should be my first issue, but it surprisingly wasn't that bad. I started off with Team Rose, since that's considered the easy mode, so it'd be good to start off with that. And it was pretty enjoyable. And then I went Team Sonic, Team Dark, and then Team Chaotix, and Final Story. So, Team Sonic, the normal mode of the game. So, Team Sonic is just basically the base game, and it's fun. Sonic Heroes is slippy, and it has longer levels, but overall, it's just fun. I had a good time with it, and I think that's really just all that matters. Instead of just it's a good level design, no, you need good level design, but other factors, it should just be if I had fun or not, and I did with Sonic Heroes. It's Sonic Story. It it's probably my least favorite of the normal stories. So, if you didn't know, Sonic Heroes, each story basically plays the same levels, but the objective is different. Team Rose, shorter levels. Team Sonic, normal mode. Team Dark, hard mode with longer levels. And Team Chaotix, you have an objective to do in each level instead of getting to the end of the goal. And I don't mind that. But I do feel like the game repeats too much. And I like the switching between the free characters, but I never switched unless I needed to. I always just played with Sonic or whoever the speed character is, as it just made sense, since I'm just trying to go fast here, and that's what my thought process was, just go fast. and I think that Sonic Heroes is overhated because, as a former hater of this game, it, it just it's kind of scary. If it's scary isn't the right word, but it's probably the best way to explain it. So if you haven't played the game, it just the fact that you have to play the same story 4 times in different varying lengths and or objectives. That I guess that to newcomers could be, scary, but it actually isn't in reality. It's fine if you play them all back to back to back, because then you've got that experience, which I think is probably quite helpful. And honestly, Team Sonic pretty good. The baseline of the game had some fun with it, and that's all I've got to say for Team Sonic. And yeah, Team Dark. Team Dark. The hard mode of the game. And honestly, my favorite team to play. And I don't know why, but I just had the most fun playing Team Dark. It is the harder mode and longest level, sorry. But yet I enjoyed it the most. I I don't know why. I just found it so much fun, and I just loved playing the levels. The only level that annoyed me was the last one, and that's just because there's a couple stupid enemy placements and stuff like that. But like overall, it's really enjoyable, and for the hard mode / longer levels, it's not that bad. Uh, the longer levels I didn't mind since they're only like a couple minutes longer, and it didn't even seem that much harder. And maybe that's because I had already played the game twice before in the form of Team Rose and Team Sonic. But maybe it's just because Team Dark probably has the best selection of characters playstyle wise. I like Omega's playstyle, and Shadow's just like a copy and paste of Sonic. Rouge was literally only there to lift me up. I like to fly whenever needed. So Team Dark is enjoyable, and it's honestly quite fun, and I think its levels are probably the best. I kind of like them being longer, and honestly, Team Dark being the one I was scared of playing the most. Really, it did surprise me. I enjoyed it a lot, and this is the same with Sonic Adventure 2, where Team Dark, the first time I played the game, surprised me. So I think that's just maybe like the ability of like Shadow the Hedgehog to like surprise me, since even the Shadow game and Shadow story in Sonic 6 surprised me. Meaning, maybe it's just something about Shadow that his levels just always surprise me, and I don't know if that's a good thing, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and I don't know. My favorite level for Team Dark is Egg Fleet, the one you're currently seeing. And I don't know why, I just enjoyed it the most. It just had a bunch of fun parts in it. And it for the second last level, it didn't seem that challenging. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the extended version of it is pretty good or something. Uh, like I said, I think it's just the most enjoyable. I liked Egg Fleet in all of them. It's just Team Dark is probably the extended version, meaning I got to play it for longer, which is probably why I enjoyed it the most. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy all the other levels. I enjoyed every level, but one of the rail ones, Railroad Canyon, I think maybe. The second rail one was annoying because of placements and stuff and slippy controls. And that's honestly like the only level I think I disliked. It's just it's fun. Sonic Heroes is just a fun game, though. This is when the Sonic games did start getting a bit worse. Um, I I feel like this game narratively isn't as good as Sonic Adventure 2 and some gameplay aspect, since this game definitely lacks polish, since it is extremely slippy, and the heroes or villains, if you're playing Team Dark, they just your allies just sometimes just aren't there, which is just not cool. I'm not sure if that was just a thing I encountered sometimes, or if that's a thing other people have encountered. But sometimes just the like the strength and the flying character would just fly off, and I feel like just the repetition is, of course, really annoying, and I think that just this game, if the levels were spread out, maybe as in like some Team Sonic gets a couple levels, Team Dark gets a couple levels, Team Rose, Team Chaotix get a couple different levels. I feel like that's how the game could have been perfect. And now on to Team Rose, the easy mode, the short levels. And I chose Lost Jungle because there's something I wanted to bring up during this. Lost Jungle level 10 is, so to get the Chaos Emeralds, you have to get the key in every second level of an area, and get to the end of the level with said key, and then you enter the special stage. And this is the level that I used to grind for the Chaos Emeralds, and it's really short, and it shows how the Team Rose is really just the really easy mode. And I like how Big the Cat is back in a proper way instead of just fishing. And honestly, Team Rose, even though it's short, it's still just really enjoyable. You could just in probably 2 hours, you can just knock this entire story out, and that's pretty good. It's fun, and I like how I like how you just go quickly for the level with these guys, and I realized I've just been saying the same thing for each thing, but that's honestly how I think. Sonic Heroes really did surprise me. This is not to say that it has its issues. It's just I didn't encounter those issues other than the slippiness. So I wouldn't know what those issues are, for example. And honestly, I think I just had a whole bunch of fun with this game. And one thing I've forgotten to bring up is the Team Blast. I love the Team Blasts in each different team because they're all different, which is great. And that's just, I think, a great part. There's a bit of uniqueness to each story, but I don't think it's unique enough, which is the huge issue for me. Now, the next story is the most unique. Team Chaotix. Team Chaotix has many different objectives. You have to activate different switches, kill all the enemies, and so on and so forth, instead of just reaching the goal at the end. And I guess that's a smart idea. That's a fun idea. But if you miss one, you have to restart the entire. Well, not restart. You go back to the level, the start of the level, and then you have to walk through it again, trying to find what you missed. Which I guess is it was annoying, but I only encountered it with one level where I missed one of the switches, and this was the haunted mansion level. I forgot the name of it, and he was just only annoying. And I feel like Team Chaotix. I'm happy that it's not just like an ultra hard mode or something like that, and that it actually is unique. Since I feel like the game would have suffered if it wasn't unique, and not to say that it hasn't already suffered from the lack of uniqueness in each of the stories. It's just at least there's something original and not just get to the end of the level again, which I guess is kind of cool. Team Chaotix probably is my second favorite story in the game, and since Team Rose is about for Amy finding Sonic, for Cream finding Chocola, a different Chow, and for Big finding Froggy. For Team Sonic, it's just beating Eggman. For Team Dark, it basically is just uncovering the secret of Shadow and stuff like that, and why he's back. Which I don't like how it's only revealed in Shadow the Hedgehog why he's back, and only like 10 minutes into the final boss fight, like the true final boss fight, which that's not very cool. And then Team Chaotix, there's a job because since Team Chaotix is they're detectives and they have a job to do, and I guess that's why they have different objectives, and that's just because their jobs. And I guess that's a cool part. But sure, there could have been a lot of better things done, in my opinion. And it's just, I feel like Team Chaotix really should have had different levels. Than I have to reiterate this point. The game shouldn't be every team playing the same levels. It makes sense for like the eventual team battles, but like you could just like include a couple levels that are similar between each team, but that shouldn't mean that you play the same levels four times to get to the final story, which is quite annoying in my opinion. And I've realized that this is an opinion that many other people share, and I think it's just because it makes the most sense. Just the game really is just really repetitive, and I guess that's also an issue with Sonic Adventure 2 in the form of just the copy and paste levels. But Sonic Adventure 2, each character has its different levels. They might play the same as their other counterpart, their light or dark counterpart, depending on who you're playing, but at least it's not just the same level over and over again, which is probably what my biggest gripe with this game was before I got into it, and it was only just furthered after I played it. And it's really repetitive in the form that whenever you get on a rail, you're kind of scared to like not switch because you're probably gonna fly off. Then to progress, you've got three things: either you fly up, there's these circles which come back from SA1's tail story, which let you fly upwards to progress, that's how you progress with the flying character. And then also there's the circle fans on the floor, which is how you progress if you use the strength character. And then there's also the poles, which you use Sonic Wind or any other character's variations of that to go up with, which is just it's just another way of showing the game is super repetitive, and that's probably just its biggest issue. It's repetitiveness. And there is one redeeming factor, my opinion, for the repetitiveness. And that, well, it's not directly for the repetitiveness. It's the redeeming factor for the game is the boss fight. The boss fight at the end of each story, which is just the same boss fight. It's kind of fun. But Metal Overlord is a really fun boss fight. What I'm Made Of is a great song. But the journey to get here wasn't that good. It took me so long to get the Chaos Emeralds because the special stages suck. But I had a good time getting to. Oh, as soon as I got here, everything was like, oh, yep, I had fun. Now we're going to play this. So, yeah. So, this boss fight is pretty cool. It already, in the starting cutscene, it already has one issue, and that is Tails and Knuckles do have super forms in the classic games, and I'm not sure why they just didn't bring those back. They could have brought back those super forms, but no, they decided just to put a super bubble around them. Now, this boss fight is a bit confusing in the way that you don't realize that at first the only way to damage him is the Team Blast. And getting the Team Blast is a bit weird. And you do have to get rings and with the weird controls, because your camera is basically on Metal Overlord. Meaning the controls are weird since you don't have that additional factor of moving the camera. So it is a bit harder to get rings in this. So that's why I recommend just trying to pop the balloons, because then that's the easiest way to get the Team Blast up. Because with the balloons, you can just get like half the meter up, and if you, of course, you can only damage him with the Team Blast, which I guess it's a fair way of doing it, only being able to damage him with the Team Blast. But you still need to do a couple of Team Blasts, and you only have like 50 seconds, meaning you do have to get the Team Blast quickly. Of course, you can up the time because of if you get rings, but like I said, they are quite difficult to get because of the camera being locked onto Metal Overlord, and you don't have that additional factor to move and get them. And yeah, I can guess how that. You can probably guess how that's an issue, and it also has a couple of fun factors of Metal Overlord actually freezing either, well, any of the members of Team Sonic. It just depends on who you're playing, and you actually have to break them out of the ice before you can do a Team Blast or something like that. And I guess that is cool. But I feel like they should have done a final Team Blast or something, instead of just constantly being Team Blast after Team Blast after Team Blast to damage Metal Overlord. Like, you should have done like 3 regular Team Blasts, and then you have another bar that was charging up. And with that bar, you would have gotten like a special a super Team Blast, for example, and you would have been able to damage him. Since like he gets the abilities of like ice and he gets chaos control, which just isn't fair. And I feel like if they were to remaster this game, they should probably just add in a special Team Blast to make it at least a climactic ending to the fight, since basically just uh getting the meter up and then pressing the right bumper. I get that's probably not the coolest thing, but it's not the worst. It should have just been. I don't know. I'm getting mixed opinions about this boss fight now, and that's just because there's so many great things about it. The song, the idea of a really overpowered Metal Sonic, like using the Team Blast, but then it should have also been the Super Team Blast. Tails and Knuckles should have been Super Tails and Super Knuckles instead of just regular. And it's probably it's better than the classic Sonic boss fights, but I don't think it's better than the 2 adventure boss fights in my opinion. And overall, Sonic Heroes, a game that surprised me, and I think that the game's actually pretty fun, and more people should give a chance, and and they shouldn't be scared of the many repeated levels.
This world where life is strong. In this world, life's an open book.
Sonic 06, known as probably one of the most notorious Sonic games, being insanely buggy and it's extremely disliked. This game, just like Sonic Heroes, surprised me. I thought I was going to have a really bad time with the game, but not so much. I had a bad time, if I'm being honest. And to be fair, that's just probably because, for me, anyways, there's nothing memorable in Sonic 06 other than it being very glitchy, of course. So, there's nothing much here that I care about. And, starting off, Sonic's story is the only story I had played beforehand. So, I had some experience. And getting back into Sonic's story, I did have to, of course, remember how to play the game. But, overall, it didn't take me that long. And it wasn't that bad. I encountered no bugs. And I guess, I don't want to say it was really enjoyable, but it was alright. And I didn't mind it. The weak bits were the couple of times I played Tails and the Knuckles bit in the lava area. I forgot what it's called. And that's honestly about my gripes. That's about it for my gripes for Sonic 06. I don't hate it. I don't entirely love it, but it's not that bad. Well, of course the game is extremely unpolished, but if you look at it as a game just to play to enjoy, it's pretty alright. It's quite fun. It depends. It depends if you find just mindless shits and giggles fun, then yeah, you'll enjoy this fun. You'll enjoy this game. But if you like your game polished, if you like your story, well, the game doesn't actually have a half bad story at points, but it's in this game is entirely based on different. There's a bunch of different factors that go into this game, and it really depends on the person playing it. This was Sonic 06 was probably the game I was scared for the most in this, because I was scared the bugs could have encountered, but honestly, it wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it, and of course, it has its many issues, which so many people have mentioned. But my experience with this game wasn't that bad. It only took me like a couple of hours to get Sonic's story. But then I went to take a break and then started no, never mind. I remember I started I started Shadow Story afterwards. I feel like the weakest part of Sonic is the Mach speed. The Mach speed sections are quite bad. And I think that's something that if you've watched any video on Sonic 06, you'll realize that the high speed, Mach speed, whatever you'd like to call it, these sections are quite bad. And now, the best story in gameplay and in just the regular story in this game is, without a doubt, Shadow's story. Shadow has the best gameplay because it's basically Sonic's story without Mach speed. Now, here we have an issue with Shadow. In this basically challenge, let's just say, it's not much of a challenge. It was just me playing every Sonic game. They hadn't really encountered anything that didn't let me play the games for any reason. But during Sonic 06, I encountered what was probably the biggest time kill in this entire thing. My Xbox 360 broke, and I had to wait a couple days to get a new one. And it luckily, we could take the hard drive out. The hard drive was all right, meaning all the progress is saved and stuff. Meaning as soon as I got the new Xbox, I could have just gotten back into playing this game. But it was, I don't know if to view it as a much needed break during the challenge or if to view it as a problem, because I feel like a much needed break would make sense only after Sonic 06. And now I'm gonna get on to the actual contents of Shadow Story. Shadow Story is the best written, and that's just because he's a really interesting character. And you can watch any video on Sonic 06 and you'll know that Shadow Story is great. I think even separate videos on why Shadow Story is great. And I think that anyone who plays 06 will know that Shadow is the best story. And the gameplay of the story, of course, is wonderful since it's Sonic's, but without the huge issue of Mach speed. Though in some cases Mach speed is replaced by the bike, but the bike is easy. The bike you can control well. Mach speed you cannot. So it's really up to the eye of the beholder to decide what their favorite story is. But for most people, and for me, of course, it's Shadow. Shadow's story is really enjoyable, and that's what I have to say about Shadow's story. Now, the story I had the least knowledge about was Silver's story, since, of course, his playstyle varied from the other hedgehogs. And there was, of course, the ball puzzle that anyone who knows Sonic 06 will probably know that there's the dreaded ball puzzle. And I'm going to be honest, the ball puzzle wasn't even that bad. And Silver, I think, is the weakest. Like, it's a decent story, but I think it's the weakest in concept, in the form of just how the gameplay is, since it's a lot slower and you're playing at the same levels as Sonic and Shadow. And like, telekinesis is a cool part of the game, but that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that it should be the main aspect of the story. Blaze was annoying to control because of her abilities, and Amy was alright. Not Tails. Silver is the best character in the story, but it's still this story is a bit weird. It's an entirely platforming story, which does kill the pace for Sonic the Hedgehog, the fastest thing alive. Which I guess to some people is an issue, and to some people isn't. For me, I just wasn't a huge fan of this story, and I found this one is the one where I had the most issues. But again, that is just me. And Silver, I didn't have a Silver's Silver story. I viewed it more as just get it done for the sake of getting it done instead of get it done just to enjoy it. And that's probably not a good way to look at it, but I feel like, for me at least, Sonic is all about the speed, and of course there's the issues of the other characters, but I feel like the other characters, they do decent speed at least. But Silver's just too slow. Blaze is odd to control. Amy's just a double jump. Amy's not that bad, I guess. Amy's the closest to the other playable characters. Also, just Silver's levels are a lot longer, and I'm not a huge fan of when Sonic games have really long levels. When you're playing as base characters, you will be encountering another game with long levels soon in the form of Sonic Unleashed. But I've got my own comments to say about Sonic Unleashed. Now, Silver Story, if anyone knows Dragon Ball, Silver Story is basically just a version of Trunks' story, but modified. Because Mephiles, of course, tells Silver to kill Sonic. But the basics are still there. It is basically just the same thing as just going back to the past to try fix the future, but then realizing the future won't be fixed by you fixing the past, and it will only change that reality's future and not your own existence. Which I guess is alright. And Blaze's sacrifice at the end is alright. There's a huge issue in this game in the form of just the Blaze, because anyone who knows Sonic Rush knows that Blaze originally shows up in that game, and of course that her being from the future kind of just messes up her story. And I think with the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, we have the definitive story for Blaze, and that is the Sonic Rush story. And Amy, of course, mistaking another hedgehog for Sonic isn't that good, in my opinion. And now I'm going to talk a bit about the ball puzzle because it's on screen. And the ball puzzle, it did take me many attempts, but it wasn't that I didn't, like... It wasn't what I thought it'd be. I thought it'd be like, yeah, it'd take me many attempts, I'd be really mad. But really, I actually didn't get mad at the ball puzzle in the slightest. It wasn't that bad. I can see how it's challenging. and it's I feel like it's been over exaggerated, and I feel like we don't need the glitch for the ball puzzle. I feel like it's just easily completable at this point. Now, I'm gonna get on to the main story of Sonic 06. Of course, we've got the factor of Mephiles, where he sends Silver to kill Sonic to make Elise, the main human character, cry, because then Iblis would be released and Mephiles can combine with Solaris to become Iblis to become Solaris, but as we know that isn't the case, and then the Mephiles just kills Sonic himself, which then causes this all to happen, and then there's the infamous kiss scene after getting all the emeralds, which wasn't even that bad of a level in my opinion, and I think that this boss fight at first is a bit meh. The Solaris boss fight phase 1, it's a bit meh, not that enjoyable in my opinion, and I think that it in its second phase it gets a whole lot better. So in this boss fight, you switch between Sonic, you switch between Shadow, and you switch between Silver. Sonic, I forgot what Sonic does. I think Sonic goes up and hits Solaris. Shadow throws Chaos Spears at it, and Silver uses telekinesis. The first phase is easy to go through, but the second phase was a bit harder and a bit more enjoyable in my opinion. This is probably the bit where the boss fights really start getting a bit worse. In my opinion, this boss fight it pales in comparison to the other boss fights from the adventure games and Sonic Heroes. I feel like this is probably the worst 3D Sonic 3D Supersonic boss fight. Yeah, I think it is, because there's been a huge lack of supersonic boss fights. So, now, getting into Phase 2. Phase 2, if it was entirely Phase 2, I feel like Phase 2 would have redeemed it. Phase 2 I had a lot of fun with, and Phase 2 basically has the same ideas as it has the same ideas as the first phase, where you use Sonic to hit, and then Shadow to hit, and then also Silver to hit in their different ways. And it does the same thing as Sonic Adventure 2. You switch to save rings, of course. And honestly, this is just a lot of fun, and it was quite enjoyable in my opinion, and I think that this fight is not that bad and not that good at the same time, and though there are a lot of different factors to a good Sonic final boss, and this is an issue. There's an issue here, and that is the instrumental version of his world. I actually don't like it that much, and I feel like it should have just been base his world with lyrics and everything. So, if I was to remake the game, of course I would include that version of his world instead of the instrumental. And I feel like in this boss fight, Silver's the weakest link, and Shadow Shadow's alright. Sonic's probably the best way of damaging Solaris. And that's because you go straight in and you just need to hit him once more. Overall, this boss fight, I heard good things about it, and it was just underwhelming. And now we're on to the game that I view as my favorite Sonic game.
I see it, and now it's all within my reach. Possibility.
Sonic Unleashed, my favorite Sonic game. Now I gotta quickly say something. I am keeping this short because I may do a video on Sonic Unleashed alone someday, and I wouldn't want that just to be this, but just this part, but its own. So Sonic Unleashed, it's the first Sonic game I ever played, and playing it, my feelings are just the same. I love it so much. Its daytime stages are probably the best modern Sonic stages we've had, and I'm not gonna get onto the Werehog yet, but just Sonic Unleashed. It's beautiful in its aesthetics. It's high speed in just a really beautiful way, where you actually feel the speed. And the only issue with Sonic Unleashed is the fact that its hardware is not strong enough to run it at its maximum potential. And when that's the only issue for me about this game, then that just makes this a perfect game. So Sonic Unleashed, the daytime stages are just impeccable, and I can just zoom through them whenever I want. Now, I've realized with these voiceovers that it might sound like I'm reviewing the game, but that's for a follow-up live stream where I make a tier list on all the games. But where this is actually just me stating my time with the games. So I'm just gonna make that clear. And Sonic Unleashed, I just loved I love playing this game so much, and again, it's so much fun, and I just love blasting through the daytime stages, and it was just so much fun to do it all over again. And though I actually haven't mastered the game yet, that is something I'll go out of my way and do eventually. Now, the nighttime stages. The nighttime stages are something a lot of people dislike, and you might have heard me talk in the Sonic 06 bit about how I dislike long levels. In this, I don't hate it because one of the big games I grew up playing that you guys should know is Skylanders, and that's just basically a beat 'em up platformer, and this is basically a beat 'em up platformer. So I honestly don't hate it, and though I would rather it not have. I would rather the nighttime stages not be in the game, but I don't mind it. I had fun, and that's good for me at least. And I think probably the best nighttime stage is Eggman Land, and now that might be weird, and because Eggman Land, I've heard is basically the hardest level in the game, but I didn't find it that difficult. I only had like 2 deaths in it. No, it probably like just 4 deaths, and it was just a whole lot of fun. Eggman Land. The times I've played Sonic Unleashed, Eggman Land has been one of my favorite levels to play through, and I realized that Sonic Unleashed is really, really good in all its aspects. Since the Werehog has only started growing more and more on me the more I played the game. Because I always dread the Werehog stages since they take a while, but yeah, I don't mind them. I feel like my biggest issue though is the metal grinding. I was not a fan of metal grinding, but the metal grinding was only just a temporary thing to do, and I think you guys will realize that with this next section, which covers my favorite stage in Sonic, why I love the daytime stages. Rooftop Run. Now, this is a very common answer for one of the best stages in Sonic. It's probably second most answered, with the first being City Escape. And this is the stage I've also played the most. With this stage, you burst through everything with a speed of a god. This entire level is based on holding boost and going forward, and it's just so much fun. The highest rank I've gone rooftop run is B, but I feel like I get through it in like 2 minutes, and that just shows how well of a level how well the level is designed. It has one of the best songs, Sonic. The Sonic Unleashed soundtrack is just amazing, and the level is just wonderful. I know its layout like the back of my hand, and Rooftop Run. It's just so much fun. You burst through everything. It really captures speed, and it's super fast, and it's the best. It's the game. This game is the best game that includes boost, because you really do feel like you go fast if you're boosted in this game, unlike other games. And honestly, I cannot praise this game enough. I'm going to leave my praise for the tier list live stream and for the the most likely chance that I'm going to make a Sonic Unleashed video, since I just love Sonic Unleashed so much. It's so much fun. I recommend anyone tries it out. It's you won't regret it. It's so much fun, and I it, just the daytime stages. I keep on saying they're just great, and that's because they are. They're so much fun, and yet this game is slept on because of the Werehog. And yeah, the Werehog, yeah, it does have issues, but it's not that bad. Now, now, Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Unleashed, I feel like, is probably the greatest Sonic can be in the modern stages. The stages are just wonderful. Again, I just had such a good time with this game. Like, it's all I can talk about. My wonderful time with this game. Now I'm gonna go on a bit of the story. The story is wonderful. It's really good. Chip is a great character, and the story, I would need an entire video to go over why it's amazing. But Sonic is Sonic's character is really good in this, and Chip is a great character. Eggman's pretty good, and there's just a whole lot of other factors that make this game so good. And I feel like any Sonic fan will appreciate this game for how good it is, and how fun it is, and how amazingly fast you feel when you run through any daytime stage. There's so many daytime stages in this game that I love, and now there is another part of this game that I really like, and that is the boss fight. The final boss against Perfect Dark Gaia. First of all, you clash with the Colossus, which is just all the Emerald Temples together, and you fight Dark Gaia. And then he becomes Perfect Dark Gaia. Now, not only does this game have wonderful cutscenes, it its soundtrack goes along with it, and it's just amazing. These cutscenes are wonderfully animated. The best cutscenes the Sonic series has had, in my opinion, and many others most likely. And this is probably one of the best supersonic fights in the game. And I realize that it does have one of the issues I brought up with Sonic 06's, and that is the instrumental version of his world. But in this Endless Possibilities instrumental version is really good, which was not the case for me, at least with the His World instrumental version. So with this boss fight, you're basically around this giant force field, and you have to damage the heads, and then eventually you'll be able to get in to attack Dark Gaia, which is just a bunch of quick time events. I realize people don't like quick time events that much, especially in this game, and I don't mind them. I don't really care that much. And now you'll see why I enjoy this boss fight so much, since it's super fun. I think it's in my opinion, the first really good controlling supersonic boss fight. And the fact that this comes from a really cool Werehog Sonic boss fight into then the Colossus, and then also during the Colossus when it clashes with Dark Gaia, you get bits where you have to go damage Dark Gaia as base Sonic, which was a cool addition that I didn't know about when I first played this game. So that was fun, and then you get into this supersonic boss fight, which is really cool in my opinion. You go around super and damage Dark Gaia, and Dark Gaia is just one of the coolest Sonic bosses, because it's just something that comes from the start of the game, and then it's basically like perfect chaos, but cooler in my opinion. And you have to really master this boss fight to get a good rank on it and to not get hit. It's a challenging boss fight, which is pretty good, and it's so much fun. I keep on using that in this video because everything here really is that much fun. Now, force wheel drop, and now this is the bit where you get into proper fight. Now, you do have to spam X or square depending on what you're playing this on. It's quite a bit in this fight, and that's not an issue. It's just preparation. It's preparing you for Sonic Frontiers if you think about it. If you play them all back to back to back like I did. And it's a boss fight. I do realize that, of course, the quick time events here can be viewed as annoying, but then it's not bad. Now, here's a bit where you have to press X 60 times in like 20 seconds, which was not bad. and just this entire boss fight's so cool. And it's a climactic ending to an extremely climactic game, and I have so much fun with Sonic Unleashed whenever I play Sonic Unleashed. It's just a wonderful game in my opinion, and I just think it's really good, and it's there's a reason it's my favorite Sonic game. Now the next game is pretty good as well. Sonic and the Black Knight, an underrated gem in the Sonic series in the form of a Wii spin-off game, which I would still count mainline. I would have counted Sonic and the Secret Rings, but I know that I would have been really having a bad time if I played that after Sonic 06 and Sonic Heroes. So actually, I explained it in the intro why I didn't include it, but with Sonic and Black Knight, it is the #1 exercising tool. You nunchuck in your left hand to move around, and you swing the Wii remote with your right. And honestly, for me, it's a really, really, really fun Sonic game. It is really fun. It's probably my favorite gimmick Sonic game. And it's just, for me, it's really enjoyable. When I replayed it, it took me 2 hours, and I just had a really good time with the game. And honestly, its story is really good. The game is just super fun and super enjoyable. I can never not have a good time with Sonic and the Black Knight. I've replayed the final boss so many times just because of how fun it is. And it's just so fun to play a Sonic game where you still have that speed aspect, but you also just can swing the Wii remote around and basically win the game. And it's so much fun. If I was to recommend any Sonic game to a casual gamer, it'd be Sonic and the Black Knight, since it's super enjoyable, and it's really fun. You've got some fun boss fights, and it's got some really good songs in the game, and I find it so much fun playing Sonic and Black Knight, and it's such a super simple game that is executed amazingly, and I think that anyone would just enjoy Sonic and the Black Knight since it's so simple yet super enjoyable at the same time. And not only that, but it has a great story about Sonic and stuff like that. And Sonic being King Arthur is alright, and I don't mind that he's King Arthur. And honestly, I like the entire thing at the end where Amy thinks it's an excuse that he didn't. It's an excuse for why he didn't show up to the date they had. Now, one of the great parts of this game is I think that just instead of doing like regular like knights and stuff, they make the knights like Shadow, Blaze, and Knuckles. They make the weaponsmith, they make him Tails, and they make the Lady of the Lake Amy, which is super fun. Just a super cool idea. Now, one of my favorite levels, which is actually the level that both the times I've played this game, is the level before the end, is the dragons fight. Since it's just you go and strike the dragon, and then you have to strike the dragon again, and you strike the dragon once more. It's super fun in my opinion, and it follows something cool in the form of the post game, going for the the proper ending by putting down all the sacred swords to then have Sonic become Excalibur Sonic. And just the whole idea of Sonic the Sword is just really cool to me. And I'm not sure if that's just me being a bit silly and goofy and liking it like that, or if that's a common opinion. But Sonic with a sword is one of the coolest ideas of our century, and I will fight anyone about that. No, I won't. I'm joking. And Sonic with a sword is cool, but throw in Sonic's friends, and that's even cooler. And honestly, Sonic and the Black Knight is an underrated Sonic gem. I love the game so much. It's super enjoyable. It's so fun for casual people. It's really cool that it's on the Wii, so like you can use the Wii remote like the actual sword, which is a wonderful touch in my opinion, and it's quite fun, and I really enjoy it. And I think that it's just probably one of the coolest Sonic gimmicks. And it's definitely one of the best Sonic Wii games. Because it's... I don't see this game coming out on any other consoles. I could see Sonic and the Secret Rings coming out on other consoles. I could see Sonic Colors coming out on other consoles. But I cannot see this game coming out on other consoles. And I'm not sure if that's just me. Maybe you could do Sonic and the Black Knight with a gamepad, which I don't know how that would work. And I like how there's a bunch of like levels out that you can do instead of just going for the Dark Queen boss. And I like how there isn't rings, it's fairies. That like there's the ring fairy, and I think there's a couple other fairies, but they're not that relevant. And I like how you can like change your sword and change stuff like that and change your title. Now, Dark Queen is probably one of my favorite Sonic boss fights, but I think it's also just too easy. Since for me, basically, you just have to. It's basically there's two ways to do it, and that is the way I do it, since I just want to make it at least slightly longer, and that is just doing it without trying to get critical hits. But you can also do it with critical hits, which makes everything a lot harder. Well, not a lot easier, sorry. But I just prefer to swing the Wii remote around and hope for the best. Now, I think that Sonic and the Black Knight would be cool to maybe see a remaster on the Switch. I doubt that would happen, but I think it'd be quite cool to see a remaster for Sonic and the Black Knight on the Switch. Especially because like you could use the Joy-Con the same way as the Wii. And I guess it's fun. For Sonic and the Black Knight is just a whole lot of fun. And it's a great story, and it probably deserves its own video as well. And honestly, it's my favorite Sonic Wii game, and it's so enjoyable. And it's got great controls. It's a great way of playing a Sonic game, in my opinion. And I know that some people don't care about the storybook games. I do. Well, at least Sonic and Black Knight. I don't care about Sonic and the Secret Rings in the slightest. That game annoys me. And I played it, didn't enjoy it, but Sonic and Black Knight I enjoyed. And Excalibur Sonic is just really cool in my opinion. And now, though this is my favorite Wii Sonic game, the next Sonic game is the Wii's main Sonic game. Sonic Colors. Sonic Colors, the main Wii Sonic game, and then later ported to modern systems with Sonic Colors Ultimate and also on the DS. Sonic Colors is a game that I first played on the Xbox with Sonic Colors Ultimate, and then later played on the DS with my first time playing the Wii version actually within this. So I'll give you guys what I thought of the other two versions and then my comparisons with the Wii version. So when I got Sonic Colors Ultimate, I was only just getting back into Sonic, and I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. I didn't encounter any bugs, so it was fun. Sonic Colors was really good for me then. I enjoyed it, and I had a good time. And then Sonic Colors DS I had played following Sonic Rush, and I thought it was pretty good, quite enjoyable, and it was a fun, different variant of the main game. And now, getting into Sonic Colors on the Wii. Sonic Colors on the Wii was alright. It was pretty much the same game, though I had a worse time controlling it. But that's just because I hadn't used the gamepad to control a Sonic game before on the Wii. And the joysticks were a bit weird on the Wii, so it was a bit weird getting used to it. I'm not sure if this was just my gamepad or if it's just how the Nintendo Pro controller is. But I had a pretty fun time. It took me just a couple hours to beat the game. It was pretty enjoyable. And honestly, I don't know if the DS version. I'm not going to include this in here, but I think this version is a lot better than Colors Ultimate, since it's not buggy. And the only thing that Colors Ultimate does for me is I feel like the visuals were slightly better in Colors Ultimate than they are here, though that might just be my memory messing up. And I like the Sonic lives here instead of the Tails saving you. And so that was fun. And Sonic Colors being the second proper boost game, if we are not counting Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure, it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed Colors Ultimate when I got that 2 years ago. Last year, I think. I do not remember. And I didn't care much for the Wisps. I didn't care much for much of just the Wisps and the short levels. I liked the first level of each area was pretty good, and the boss fights I didn't like that they were reused, and I guess that's a gripe of mine. But it was alright. I don't hate the game. I don't think it's better than some of the games that I've played, some of the games I've mentioned, and some of the games I'm yet to mention. But it's alright in my opinion. It's definitely a good game. It's enjoyable. It's super fun, and it's not reliant on the wisps. Well, it is, but it's not that you're constantly using them everywhere. You can do stuff without them, which is good, in my opinion. That's how any gimmick game should be. The gimmick should be optional for a lot of the parts of the game, and not exactly be forced optional every single time the gimmick shows up. Now, the gripe I have with Sonic Colors is it has too many levels per area. Its stages, they feel just lackluster in my opinion, and they're just not that. Just some of the extra stages that you do need to get to the end of the game are just not that fun in my opinion, and the each area gets worse after just the first stage in my opinion. Now, I'm not sure if that's just me or if that's what other people think. It's just my opinion, of course, remember. And everyone else is allowed to have their own. For me, Sonic Colors is a pretty alright game. It's quite good, but it has some stuff I don't like. Now, the boss fight. The boss fight is the first boss fight in this, the third boss fight, sorry, in this, fourth, sorry, I'm forgetting the classic Sonic games, but now, this is the first 3D Sonic game to not feature a super form for its boss fight, and the first game since Sonic 2 to not feature a super version of the of a final boss, and now, I'm not actually quite sure if you can get the Chaos Emeralds in the Wii and/or Ultimate version of a Sonic Colors. I know you can get them in the DS version, and I did get them in the DS version. But for this, I don't think there's a super form, which is kind of sad, since they've been going strong with the super form boss fights, and I was hoping for a good super form boss fight to come from this, but there was none, sadly, and I guess that's just something I'm gonna have to live with. They did sacrifice it for collecting all the wisps to do an attack with all the wisps, which I guess, if the game was more gimmick-based, because I feel like it's half and half gimmick-based and half not gimmick-based. If it was more gimmick-based, I would have been all for using all the wisps to basically kill. No, not kill, but destroy Eggman. But in this, it's not that good, since, they didn't make wisps really forced upon you. Or that's how it didn't seem. It didn't seem like I needed a wisp in every level. There were a bunch of levels which I could avoid using the wisp, which is great. And this boss fight, it's quite repetitive, but it's also not that bad in my opinion. It's quite fun, and I do just like the idea. I do like the idea of using all these wisps. I just feel like it should have been executed better. Maybe combine the wisps. Maybe have combined the wisps with the super form instead of the just base Sonic, and it being a homing attack that with the wisps that finishes Eggman off is a bit underwhelming. But I like how it does follow into generations, which is fun. And I do feel like the boss fight is quite easy, which, with stuff being easy, is something you'll realize it becomes kind of mainstream with the next Sonic game. Sonic Generations, the game celebrating the 20th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog. And it's pretty good. It's enjoyable. It's a great game for both modern and classic Sonic fans. It's super simple, meaning it's super easy for new fans to get involved with the game and to learn how to play the game. And most people enjoyed the game. And I think that Sonic Generations is quite good. Replaying it only took me like 3 hours to beat the game. And it's a lot of fun, but it struggles with its story, and that's, I think, the only thing it struggles with. It's extremely polished and it's extremely fun, but I think that it doesn't live up to the expectations of Sonic speed. I feel like it doesn't go fast. It had Sonic Unleash's boost that makes you feel like you're going super quickly, but you're not going super quickly. But that's just one small gripe I have with the game. Overall, the modern Sonic stages are my personal favorite. They're so much fun. It's so nice revisiting all the levels, especially now that I've played all the levels and then revisiting them like not long after. It's not that bad. It's quite fun, and there are quite a couple things that I prefer about the Generations levels rather than their original counterparts. But that's it. And now, Classic Sonic. Classic Sonic is a lot of fun in this game. He's his spin dash is really quick, and it's kind of just a whole level skip. He's done well, but he's not the best bit in the game. It's by far just modern Sonic. Classic Sonic, I don't really play his levels like as a pastime like I do with with modern Sonic. And Classic Sonic, just he's there for the sake of being there, and I don't really care about his levels that much, since it's just nothing that important. It's fun to play some modern levels in 2D, but honestly, for me, that's it. I think like Classic Sonic is the weakest part, but I'm not saying it's bad. It's pretty good, but it's not that good compared to modern Sonic's sections, and I think modern Sonic sections are the best. And there are many reasons why I think the modern Sonic bits are the best. The levels are just a lot better. The classic Sonic stages, they don't have the energy for me. There's something missing in the classic Sonic stages that makes me not like them as much as I do the Sonic Generations modern stages. And yet, those modern stages I do have some issues with. Now, the final fight of the game, I have had issues with. It's really annoying because all the side characters and main characters such as Tails and Knuckles and Shadow, they're just cheering Sonic on and like saying, "Watch out for that homing shot," and stuff like that. And it's quite annoying. I'm happy to have Super Sonic back, since of course we were missing him. And it's a fun boss fight. It's just Shadow could have been involved for Super Shadow. Silver's there. He could have been involved for Super Silver. But they didn't do that. And I'm not saying they should have. I'm just saying that if they have that possibility, they should give a reason for why it's not happening. And that's one of its issues. It's why, like, why is everyone sitting in the sidelines while Sonic does it? That's what annoys me. I like the switching between the inside and the outside. And overall, it's alright. It's enjoyable. I don't know if I dislike this more than Solaris or not. I think Solaris I had more fun with than this. And honestly, just this fight, I just feel weird about. I 100% like the other boss fights in this game more than this fight, since they're quite fun, and this boss fight just is. It seems it's too easy, while also being too annoying because of the other cast members. But that's just besides the point. It doesn't even have like a cool theme, like it doesn't have a lyrical theme. It doesn't have an instrumental theme of like the game's main song. The game's just missing a main song, which just is a huge issue that I think could have been solved with maybe something, just a main theme. And I feel like this game has a lot to offer, but there's just a couple of small parts that annoy me, that just kind of bring down the whole experience for me. And I feel like there was a massive change in Sonic games after this game, and I feel like maybe this game could have done something different for its boss. Keep the time meter, maybe have the time meter throw in attacks from the past, throw in like a Chaos Tentacle or the Bio-Lizard Red Orbs and stuff like that. But the game's not that bad. I'm out of words. I just can't describe this boss fight that much. I like how you use both classic Sonic and Super just regular Super Sonic. I guess that's enjoyable, but honestly, this boss fight's just subpar for me. And I feel like there's a lot more they could have done with it. And now, onto one of my least favorite Sonic games, Sonic Lost World. Sonic Lost World, a game, I'm going to be honest, I do not enjoy. It just doesn't seem Sonic to me. It seems more like just a general platformer. You could just remove the fact that the character goes fast and you wouldn't even know it's a Sonic the Hedgehog game. And this is probably something that a lot of people feel. And also, it's a game that I only got to play for a bit. I played through maybe like 5 zones. It was not the worst experience in the world. I played for the entirety of Windy Hill, and it just doesn't seem right to me. You can tell that it isn't made by Nintendo. You can not Nintendo, Sega, and that it's made by Nintendo. You can see that it's just Mario Galaxy-esque. And I also got soft locked in the run, and I selfishly used that as a way to not play the game. I'll let myself from the past explain the situation when it happened.
It turns out that Lost World is getting removed from the challenge since I am soft locked at this bit. I have watched the video and I'm do it. You have to destroy the crates, and then this is supposed to become a little launch pad. Yet it's not. So it is getting removed from the challenge because I have been soft locked here. So on to forces.
Sonic Forces, everyone's favorite Sonic game. This game, even replaying it, I didn't want to play it. This game is, it's so short. It's so boring. How do you make a game that lasts like 2 hours max? And then just make it also the most boring game ever. So it's basically less. So you make you it make it you make it it makes you feel like it's gonna take 25 hours. Like honestly, how this game annoys me every single time I play it. And I just it's so boring. It's There's nothing good about it. Sonic is the best playable character, and that's just for no. It that's just because you could hold X and win. You boost and you win. I don't know how you could design a game like this. Then classic Sonic, he's he's so slippery, and he just sucks in this game. He shouldn't even be here. He's here just to earn money. And like the Avatar's fine, I guess. It, it was cool to have a custom character. I guess that works because people have been making Sonic OCs for like the longest time, and it's just it's all right. The boss I just have no comments to say about the base game. It's just boring. The boss fight, it's all right. For it's cool for the first bit, like where you classic Sonic and you're launching the balls straight back at the boss, and yeah, I guess that's cool. I have no issues with this bit, and I I just can't with this game. It could have been really good, but no, right? It failed. Okay, just and then the second stage of the boss, you've got the Avatar, and you've got to damage the arms when they hit the platform, and I guess that's alright. You can also damage the middle of the robot, which is probably the best place to damage the robot, as it does the most damage. This game, it could have been so good. It had a good premise of Sonic being captured by Eggman, and it could have been a really cool idea, but they just messed it up so bad, and I have just no clue how they managed to do that. And it's also just extremely boring, and I just can't find fun playing the game. It's it's not it's just not enjoyable in the slightest. You can't find anything fun to do in the game. The fact that the Shadow DLC with like a couple levels is better than the entire game is just kind of depressing. Now, the worst bit about this boss fight is that its third phase is just a copy and paste of the Sonic Colors final boss fight. I'm so happy Sonic Mania's next, so I can talk about it. Sonic Mania's the go. I don't want to talk about Forces. Sonic Mania. I love this game. This game is wonderful. It's so much fun to play through. And it's just the perfect classic Sonic game. Though I do prefer Sonic 2 myself. This game is still really good though. It's so much fun to play through the levels, to run through everything at fast speed. It's got a great selection of playable characters, and the encore mode is great. Everything is great about this. Its soundtrack is wonderful. Its level design is amazing. Everything about this game is so good. It's so much fun to play through. I just love this game. And it's the perfect classic Sonic game. And the one issue I have is that it's connected to Sonic Forces. Yeah, and I'm not that huge of a fan of Sonic Forces. And honestly, Sonic Forces is quite annoying in my opinion. And as I've said before, this was before the Sonic Mania. Sonic Forces is not that fun. Unlike Sonic Mania is so much fun, and the best of it is, the levels are so good that you can get to a point where you're at a skill level where you can really just hold the left trigger to the right and press the jump button whenever, and you basically win the game. It's honestly just a whole lot of fun, and it's a game I'd recommend to so many people. And it's so fun. Definitely listen to the soundtrack if you haven't. And it's just a great game. Now, its boss fight, I think, is my favorite classic Sonic boss fight. You are fighting with the Phantom Ruby, the same thing from Sonic Forces, and you're also fighting against Eggman, who's also fighting one of his robots. So it's a 1v1v1. It's a free for all, and you're here's super version of whichever character you chose. You have to get rings, and you have to just fight whatever boss you are fighting, and you just have to get the Phantom Ruby, and it's a really fun boss fight. It's super unique in its execution. It's a whole lot of fun. The Chaos Emeralds are easy to get, so you can easily get this ending. It's just a whole lot of fun. It follows a great ending level in the form of Titanic Monarch, and I just enjoy this game so much. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. It's a great game, and I love playing it. It's wonderful. It's got a great soundtrack, great animation, and great levels, great everything, basically. And it's a whole lot of fun to play, and I'm just happy to have experienced this game on many occasions, as it's a whole lot of fun. I think it'd be great if they did bring Hypersonic back for this. It would have been really cool to see him back. That's probably the issue I have with the boss fight. And it's not even a direct issue with the boss fight. It's just something it doesn't have that would have made it a whole lot better. And in my opinion, this boss fight is 100% worth getting. So it's 100% worth getting all those Chaos Emeralds. And it's a lot of fun, and I just enjoy it so much. Honestly, There's nothing more I can say than I enjoyed this boss fight. And Phantom Ruby, it's cool to have connections with Sonic games. It's just I don't like the fact that it's connected to Sonic Forces. Sonic Frontiers, the final game in this journey. I honestly just can't wait to not play Sonic the Hedgehog games. I'm going to keep my general opinion about this game just out of this, since I've done an entire hour-long video on this game before. I'm just gonna speak about my experience. I enjoyed it. I played on completely on hard mode this time, since I now knew that there was an entirely new story I could achieve playing hard mode, and the game is still just a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was a whole lot of fun playing the game again. I love the boss fights. It was a great thing to play right after Mania, and of course Sonic Forces. And this game is just a whole lot of fun. If you want to hear my full opinions on everything, I would just watch the Sonic Frontiers video I did when the game came out. And honestly, the final boss fight, the end, I guess I enjoyed it a bit more this time because it took me less. And the end is just a weird boss fight in my opinion, and I don't know. It's alright. It's not what they should have done for a final boss fight. They should have done a full supersonic phase after this. But I guess it's fine. Like, this isn't like a crime against me or whatever. It's fine. I can live with it. And anyways, this game is just a whole lot of fun, and I loved replaying it. Was happy to replay it, especially after playing every other Sonic game. And I haven't played it since the first two updates, so it's fun to play with that. And honestly, it was just a lot of fun, and I think that Sonic Frontiers is just a overall fun game. I've got no issues with Sonic Frontiers, and honestly, I quite enjoyed it. I have no problems with this game still. Yeah, I love it to death. And it's just honestly just a whole lot of fun, and the game's just great. And that I'm repeating everything I said in the video I did, but that's just because it's a game I really enjoy it, and Sonic's back. Anyways, that's it. So that's it. I played every single mainline Sonic game, and it was a whole lot of fun. I honestly really enjoyed it, and it was just a great experience. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time.